You couldn't ask for a wilder qualifying session for this Camel Series shootout, but indeed we've got more mud racing qualifying to go. I can't imagine getting any more incredible than it already has been.
But it's true, Bret. We do have more exciting action coming up with the first round elimination monster trucks. So stay with us. Welcome back to the U.S. Hot Rod Association's Mud and Monster Racing Championships here in the Seattle Kingdome. Bret, we've seen some really exciting action here tonight.
I'll tell you, the monster truck battles, it seems like everything has gone pretty much according to plan.
Okay, online now we have the #1 qualifier, Jeff Baintner, in high voltage against Bigfoot, one of everyone's favorites.
Like we said, this was a good news, bad news situation for that man right there, Jeff Baintner. He qualifies #1 in front of his hometown audience, and now he has to race Bigfoot in the very first round. If he could pull off a defeat of the Big Blue Ford, it would be the biggest single moment of his life. He's already had so many incredible situations on our ESPN coverage of these events that he's already becoming almost a household name, despite his lack of very many national event wins, to be honest. In the meantime, the Bigfoot team is ready for blood on this one. Checking each driver, they're ready. They leave the line. Bigfoot with an early lead. Look at Baintner. Unbelievable. Look at this driving job. Absolutely incredible. Stopping within inches of the wall. The crowd can't believe it, and rightfully so. He actually pulled it off, Kelly. He beat Bigfoot in the opening round.
Bret, Jeff has to be ecstatic about that.
Who couldn't be? When you can drive around Bigfoot, on the slow motion replay, you can see that Bigfoot left the starting line first with an honest 5-foot advantage going into the on-ramp. Here you see Bigfoot take it to the air. Baintner on the other side was even higher, but indeed took one of the rougher landings ever. As you can see, G. Patterson actually had a beautiful, beautiful run here. A little bit of a bounce there at the finish line, though, put him on his side, but I think he was steering away from Jeff Baintner more than anything else.
And he left time on that of 4.50 seconds. That was an excellent run for Bigfoot, but Jeff Baintner was taking the ride of his life in the other lane.
Look at this thing leave the starting line. Wheels up like a dragster, leaving the line now. When he hits the ramp, watch this thing take to the air. You want altitude? Take a look at this. Flash bulbs go off around the Kingdome. Now watch this landing. Every bit of weight of this vehicle on the right front tire. Baintner almost noses the thing over. He actually pulled the right rear tire completely off the rim. Same thing with the left side on the second bounce. Still up on one tire as he tries to get to the brakes. Like I said, the brakes don't do you any good when the machine's in the air. He stops it within inches of the wall. How close was it?
An unbelievably close race with Jeff Baintner having a time of 4.38 seconds, just 0.12 of a second faster than Bigfoot. Online now we have Bearfoot and Monster Mash, the apt name for this truck.
Mike Wells, the Washington veteran, over in the far lane. Of course, Warren Davis out of Montana in the Bearfoot Chevrolet. Both of these are big-time heavyweights. Big advantage in the horsepower department, though, goes to the blue Chevrolet. The yellow Monster Mash entry utilizing basically a single 4-barrel carbureted Chevrolet power plant that's putting about a 700 horsepower out, and there you see the difference. Warren Davis just drives away from Mike Welsh. I'll tell you what, the landing ramp on this track, if you don't hit it perfectly, you're going to slam the nose down hard enough that it's going to send you airborne in a bounce. I'll tell you, Mike Welsh has fans. Look at the people in the stands behind him cheering him on. It just was not to be here at the Seattle Kingdome on this particular run. Mike takes it across the cars, like I said earlier, in conservative fashion. It was nothing compared to this radical approach. It looked like Warren Davis may have figured out those fuel delivery problems that were plaguing him during qualifying. His qualifying a lap time, as a matter of fact, at 4.85 seconds may have fallen here, but look at these bounces. Again, if you don't hit that landing ramp just right, if you bring the rear tires up off the ground before the nose comes down, you will find yourself in a tricky situation here.
He definitely had a rough ride of 5.21 seconds, but it was good enough to beat Monster Mash.
You're looking at one of the more unusual innovations in this sport. Neon tubes that carry the electrical charge to the spark plugs in Randy Lean's hot-tempered Jeep, Kelly.
Running alongside Randy is Todd Glazer in his Hot Stuff Jeep.
Remember, we talked about Todd being a rookie. This is, believe it or not, both these drivers' first season of racing. And very seldomly, you see side-by-side Jeeps. Glazer leaves the starting line and starts train lengthening the Aberdeen, Washington lady. If nothing else, she manages to keep it under control, trying to drive around town in the shutdown area, but at that point, the Wisconsin youngster had it under control.
Really was no contest there. Looks like Randy went for quite a bumpy ride.
Actually, it was surprising that she managed to put that much power into that machine. Like I said, her game plan at the start of this event, this being her first, was to take it easy, be very conservative, plan on the other driver making mistakes, and try to take advantage of that. As you can see, she knows what she's doing behind the wheel of this thing. Perfectly straight over the cars, does a good job without getting too much air, getting too radical. The only problem is that Todd Blazer got to the finish line long before she did.
She had a lap time there of 6.97 seconds.
Which, surprisingly, was an improvement from her qualifying effort of almost a second, so at least she's moving up. Here's Todd Blazer on his initial hit. This young man at the wheel of the truck that basically took Jeff BAINTER to stardom last year in the U.S. Hobbit Association's National Event Tour. You see him coming off the side of the landing ramp down there. That's something we didn't pick up at first. He does an excellent job of controlling this. Like I said, in qualifying, this young man knows exactly how to handle this extremely ill-handling Jeep. And
his elapsed time was 6.19 seconds. A nice ride there for Todd. Continuing the action now with Taurus. This is driven by KIRK Frankish of Canada. And he's always tough to beat.
Well, like I said, he's going to have to go up with some serious power to dethrone this man. This incredible machine, Gary Sartin's Skoal Bandit, has been extremely strong, qualified in the number 2 spot behind Jeff BAINTER. And one thing about Gary Sartin, Kelly, he is not afraid to put this thing into orbit if he has to get around the opponent.
Looks like we'll be seeing some great action on this one.
Saw him during qualifying put this thing literally 10 feet in the air. The Skoal Bandit in the far lane moves it up. The Taurus entry out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, ready for the drop of the flag. Sartin gets the advantage and starts driving away from there, landing almost on the landing ramp itself. Sartin manages to keep it under control, manhandling the truck after only one hard bounce. Take a look at this. This machine definitely flew over those cars. At that point, the Taurus machine was nowhere in sight. Look at this launch, the landing coming down 2 cars from the end. He actually hits it right on the crown of the landing ramp. A huge power stand as he gets back into the throttle. But after only one bounce, Kelly, he settles that thing down.
That's right, Bret. He had an incredible run of 4.53 seconds.
And it's certainly one of the quickest of eliminations so far. You really can't fault KIRK Frankish in the other lane. Again, using the conservatism that we talked about at the very beginning of the event, hoping that Sartin would make an error of some kind. He did not. He also had a pretty rough ride down there at the finish line. He did a beautiful job of regaining control of this thing. Superb driving by Gary Sartin in the Skoal Bandit. He is looking exceptional in this event, but I think the crowd is still riding the emotional high of hometown boy Jeff BAINTER beating Bigfoot in the very first round. That was indescribable.
Definitely some exciting action. Also, we have just received word that super modified mud racer Kingdome, he had the fire in his Deja Vu earlier in qualifying rounds, is going to be able to compete coming up in the Camel Shootout, and that's next, so stay with us. U.S. Hot Rod Association's Mud and Monster Racing Championships here in the Seattle Kingdome. Bret, we've seen some really exciting action here tonight.
I tell you, the monster truck battles, it seems like everything has gone pretty much according to plan. The lower qualifiers have advanced. The biggest surprise of this event has to be Jeff BAINTER in the Yakima, Washington-based high-voltage Jeep. Beating Bigfoot in the first round of eliminations after qualifying number 1 and certainly the toughest field of racers he's been involved in a long time has made this Camel event something special. If you look at the way eliminations have progressed so far, you can see that Jeff BAINTER, the low qualifier after beating Bigfoot, has to take on the Chevy version of that, Bearfoot. And then the hot stuff Jeep, BAINTER's old ride, takes on the Skoal Bandit. Now, high voltage and Skoal Bandit, BAINTER and Sartin were the 2 quickest winners of the first round. If you had to go on averages, it looks like those 2 will probably meet in the final, but we'll have to wait and see until the semifinals are completed. Now, meanwhile, we're getting ready to go into the Camel Shootout for the 4 quickest qualifiers in mud racing, but we have an interesting situation. Of the drivers that were able to return, only one of them was an original qualifier in the Quick 4. The other drivers have either burned up so much equipment, which we saw in the qualifying round, or were disqualified, and that sets up a history-making pairing in this very first battle, Kelly.
It definitely does, Bret. We've got Kingdome in Deja Vu and his wife, Sharon Tobin, in High Spirits. This will definitely be an interesting battle.
No question about it. I don't know what to think of this. Certainly Kingdome just coming back, as we pointed out, is a major, major accomplishment after that horrendous engine fire. He leaves the starting line. His wife is on her way as well at the finish line. Tobin, though, gets there first. He's thrilled. The visor comes up. The safety crew is there just in case we would have another fire. He's got a lot of smoke there. I don't believe it. The engine erupts into flames again, and the safety crew is there before it ever even happened.
They were prepared for it this time.
Absolutely unbelievable that that engine would explode the same way 2 different times. again, though, but runs through with another fireball at the finish line. And there you see his wife, Sharon, who ran into her own problems at about the 10-foot mark just off the starting line. A tough break.